Hey guys, today, oh yeah, today I don't know what I'm going to do. Yup, that is right. Am, I am a broken man. No, I'm not. Um, I am a cold man. um, Today, no, actually tomorrow, no, that is also a lie. I am a liar. I've done severe and continuous lapse in my. Okay, so in the weekend, I am going to a game making thing. What? Yo, I don't even like gaming and I don't even like making games. However, I'm gonna network. What? Me making network. That is. You can never go wrong with some networking. Well, you can definitely. You can end up in a ditch, naked and afraid. But sometimes, very often at least, it's good to go and like be around the people that maybe have expertise in stuff that you don't, because then they can either teach you or they can do that part and you can do the other part that you enjoy. And since I like making characters in 3D, I can eventually end up making like characters for games, because I did actually make a little game. It's a grab of different like PNGs and stuff that I put on like blocks, and I made some stuff, but mostly I just tested out animation on characters, the music figurines, the music creaturines, I guess. The MCU Mario Cinematic Universe. What? So yeah, that is gonna be maybe nice. I hope I remember to upload all of those, like the files for the thingy. What's it called? I hope the blend file, so I can like extract the creatures from that into the game. Because I did buy a Google disk or Google Drive subscription with like 2 terabytes, because it was very nice. I used to have like infinite storage from my job, but then since I got fired, I lost access to it, and luckily I was prepared, and me and my roommate helped me just like download the somewhat like 3 point something terabytes, maybe 4 terabytes of like random stuff that I just sent up into the cloud because it was infinite, but it wasn't infinite. I think I reached like a point where they were like, okay, this guy is putting so much up into the cloud, we're gonna limit his access speed, because I remember I had made a animation thing, like a loop, and I had rendered it out in like EXR, which means you have all of the information. There is no like, you basically have everything that is calculated, or like everything. It's not like when you download an image, it loses quality, and then if you download and send the same image like 10 billion times, it's gonna be like compressed, like the memes where something looks like completely like fried or like completely ruined. That is because it's compressed. And the thing with EXR is that it doesn't compress like that. It just, all the information that is in the file, it's always there. And I had also used a version of EXR which was like way too, I don't know, it was just even more hardcore. And I had rendered it in, I had mistaken what Like I was told I had to render it out in 4K, and I was like, oh, okay, that's probably like uh, uh, this this is probably right. And then I rendered it out in uh, I think it was like 8,000 by 4,000 ish, something like that. That is not 4K. That is 8K. I think I'm pretty sure that is 8K. So I rendered it out in 8K EXR, and the output folder, like where Blender is told to put it, was in the cloud. And I had rendered this overnight at work, and I didn't think about like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have to download them, because I thought I didn't have to download them. I don't remember why or maybe I just didn't think about it because it was like very late when I did it. And when I get to work the next day, I'm like, oh god, no, I have them all in the cloud. Okay, I guess I'm gonna have to download them. One file is fucking uh oh, how many gigabytes? I think it was like either 1 gigabyte per image, or it was 200 and something gigabytes per image. I think it was okay, maybe 10, like 1 to 10 gigabytes. I think maybe like 200 or like 500 was how much all of the images were. And I didn't have just like a few images. I had like 200 or 300 pictures, and they weren't even zipped, so I had to download them individually. And that took like, I think it was like 1 to 3 days maybe. I don't remember. And I was just like, oh fuck. And then when I downloaded them, I started to realize, oh, I can't even view these files because they take like a minute to load, just one of them. And I couldn't like watch the animation because it was just taking up all of the RAM. Like I think I had like 64 gigs of RAM on that computer. And it just didn't work. I don't know, it was kind of whack. I also realized then that the extra data that I got with the EXR was basically like not very useful, because you get more data, but more data doesn't mean that it's better, because often sometimes you might not need more data. Sometimes you just need the good enough quality. And the thing was that I could render each image. If I had done it in like 4K, I think I could have rendered it out to be I don't know how it works, but EXR can have more information than a PNG, I think. And it's sometimes smaller than a PNG. Like I've had full renders that are like less than a megabyte, and I've had like PNGs that are like several megabytes, and I'm like, what? Sometimes even like kilobytes for the EXR. Maybe I think I might be exaggerating. I don't know. But yeah, when you use lossy, like when you let it compress stuff, the quality is like like it's very similar. Like your eyes wouldn't see much of a difference, especially like I think to be able to see the problems or see the issues, you would need to be like an expert, maybe, or like really look at the pixels. But if you're anyone else, like if you're not like super autistic and like you're really like, oh my my god, this pixel is different shade of blue or whatever. Like, oh, it's got noise at the sub-pixel level. I can see noise when I take out my microscope and look at the resonant frequency of the Tinky Tonky Togo thingy. Or, yeah, like, if you're not that person, I don't think the DWAA format, like I think that's the lossy one, and then the other one I don't remember, because I only remember the one that I click whenever I render in Blender. And I used to render in like PNG, and then I was like, oh, I don't even want to render. So then I just stopped rendering and just took screenshots of the viewport. And I didn't realize how bad that actually was. Or it's not bad, it's just I don't know, there are problems with it. Especially now that I have like a 4K TV that I use as a monitor. It's like, I don't know, you can see the all the viewport rendering defects, like the optics, the optics denoiser, because it's very fast. It's instant basically. With a 3090, it's practically instant. I can't wait for the 6090, because that's the next GPU I'm going to be buying, I believe. It's not even announced yet, but I think maybe that's the next one I'm gonna get, because it's the funny number, and also it's probably enough into the future where either I have more money or it's probably good enough to justify it. Yo, it's so light in here. The lighting be like, bruh. But yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be upgrading my GPU until like, Jesus Christ, what the hell did I have? The nuclear blast from like a Russian ICBM. Holy shit, Yo, it's 12:35 on the. Wait, no, it's 11. Okay. Oh wait, no, it was 20. Shit, I don't know, man. I saw the clock, the wrong clock. It's wrong because it's like 1 hour and 2 minutes. I think I said that last time as well. Oh, I'm so tired, even though I'm not. I took my ADHD meds, and then 1.5 hours later, I'm like, whoa, I'm ready. And yesterday, I didn't make a Yaptime video because I woke up and I was like, today I'm gonna change my life. Today I'm gonna do everything that I have never done, that I haven't done, everything that I've put off. And then I did for about 3 hours until I started trying to rig a piano in Blender, and turned out animation nodes in Blender doesn't work like it did 3 years ago, and so there was one node that was missing, and I think it might have been because they like redid some systems, because there was one other person in the comment section, like way down. I think there was like 500 comments, and there was one person who named, or no, who said the same thing, like, oh, where's the object by name node? And yeah, I couldn't find it. So I think I would have to like I don't even I didn't even know how to use animation nodes, and I'm probably gonna learn it at some point because it seems powerful, but I don't know. I don't know. Another thing, yeah, no, I was trying to make like the MIDI, making the piano respond to like a MIDI signal, so it actually like works, or you don't have to animate the keys individually. They're like controlled by an external MIDI file. the problem that I found, no, there, I don't know if I'm gonna use. Wait a minute, I just remembered someone. No, okay, so I found like another guy on YouTube who was talking about like a custom add-on for Blender that he had made, that you can like do something with MIDI, but I didn't like the setup, and I was like, I'm already too invested in animation nodes. I basically downloaded the add-on and I made 4 nodes, or put 4 nodes together, and I was like, nah, I'm set on this. I'm gonna find the node that's missing. And then I was like, you know what? I spent like an hour and a half troubleshooting, even just eating breakfast, because I hadn't eaten breakfast. Because the problem with me, when the days when I just wake up and I'm like, yes, today is the day I'm gonna change everything about myself. Those days I just don't eat breakfast. The first thing I think of is like whatever I'm gonna. I don't know. I don't even shower. I don't. Maybe I take a shit. Maybe I don't. Um, but I basically just sit, and then I drain all of my energy, and then after it I'm not even done with the thing, but I just feel like shit. So I'm just like, oh, I'm a failure. So I begin the day with like, I am God, I can change everything, I am unstoppable, and I'm too powerful to be kept in my bed. And then I wake up and then I do the thing, and then by the end of the day I'm like, oh, I'm just a waste of time, and I'm a piece of shit, and I am just a burden on society and whatever like that. Um, but yeah, it's yeah, no, yeah, I end up yeah, that's what I did say that. I blanked out. It was, bro, just became too real for a second. What? Um, but yeah, those things happen every now and they get even worse if I boost it up with like caffeine. Like if I drink some coffee, just 1 cup of coffee, and I'm just like, yes, today everything is at my fingertips. I can alter the passage of time, and I can, everything that I do today will be butterfly effect into the future. If I buy a piano, I'm going to become a musician in 2 days. And if I buy a saxophone, which I also did, I bought a saxophone. I spent like $500, which I hope was a good investment. I thought of it like, um, when I bought my 3090 from like I upgraded from a 1060 3 gigs of VRAM. That is like tiny. I could only render like 3 objects with textures, like 4K textures, before my GPU was like, no, I can't remember more of those textures. So fuck you, basically. Um, and I after I bought the 3090, my progression rate just skyrocketed, because I could actually do stuff. Like I like often I start modeling, and then I look at like, okay, or I go into render view to like see how the model is looking and like the materials and stuff, and then I forget to turn off rendering, like viewport rendering, and so I'm just modeling in cycles, and because it's so quick. And the only thing that I like, the only bad thing about it is the fan goes like like all of the time, completely like drowning out my thoughts. um but often I'm so deep in my thoughts that I don't even recognize the fan going like, and I just see like, yo, the shapes are so pretty, whoa, and the material. Because I also just sit in render view. I don't even use preview material view anymore. I just use solid and render view. I don't even use wire. I love X-ray mode. I know people I used to work with, my colleagues, they hated that I always used X-ray mode, because whenever they would open a file that I had been using, they would always find it in X-ray mode, and they would be like, "Oh, why is it like so weird?" And yeah, I just like I just like X-ray mode instead of wireframe, because wireframe is, you see all of the geometry, like all of the wireframe, not just like the one you're actively on. And you also, I don't know, it's better. You also just need to press Alt Z instead of Z and then to the left, to the left, everything. Because there, when you press Z, it opens like a pie menu, and then on the top it's like render, and the right it's solid, and the bottom is preview, the EV representation of cyclist materials. What? And then on the left there is the wireframe. Yes, I do have the UI memorized. I love Blender. Have I said that before? um, yeah, I'm my autism thing is Blender. Like, it's, oh, I love it. I cannot go a week without. Well, I can go a week without blendering. I went half a year without blendering, and that was very nice, because when I got back to Blender, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take it real slow. Like, what can I make? I can make like a little character. And then I made a little character. It was very simple. It was like blocks of glass with like a skeleton made of like metal, and it was using like the skin modifier on the stick, the metal stick skeleton thingy. And I was like, oh yeah, this is so nice. And then the next day I improved a lot more, even though I don't know, it was still a very simple model, but I was like, yo, I can actually do stuff. What? No way, I didn't remember how much I actually knew about this stuff. Like, that's the thing I remember. That's the thing I feel about everything. Like, whenever I don't do anything for a while, or do something, whenever I don't do a specific art medium in a while, I forget how much I know about it, and I will be like, oh my god, what? I can actually do stuff when I get back to it, and I'm like, yo, this is so much more fun than I remembered. What? And then I impress myself, because I'm like, yo, I didn't even know I could do this myself. And maybe sometimes I do even worse than I remember, and I'm like, no, what happened? Did I forget everything? And it feels like that for quite some time. Like, right now, I'm like kind of feeling like I've forgotten everything about music production and stuff. But I'm pretty sure that it's not that I've forgotten. It's just that I put more thought behind it. Like, I think more about, like, okay, how is the melody? Is it funky or is it boring? And then I'm like, okay, well, I think it's kind of boring. How do I make it more interesting? And then I just like start thinking instead of doing, and then I'm like, oh no, it's not perfect. Oh, and perfection is a bad thing to want to achieve, because if the more you try to achieve perfection, the less you achieve in general, in my opinion. Quote, doggies, the neighbor dogs, the neighbor dogs. Ooh. Yes. Today I was going to go outside with a friend and do some photography or go to my sister's place and celebrate some stuff, but I don't know if I want to do any of that because I'm pretty sure I have a lot of stuff uh, gonna happen in the weekend and then the next week, and so I wanna keep some days for like chilling because I've realized that I definitely need more, or the times where I don't have time to chill, I get very stressed and like everything is like, no, what is happening? What is happening to me? Oh yeah, and I also played some saxophone yesterday. I haven't gotten the new saxophone, the actual, like the real saxophone. It's on its way, I hope. It said that it's waiting for uh, the post delivery service to pick it up from the like the store that I bought it from, the online store. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I'm hoping that it's gonna come within tomorrow, but I don't. It is very likely that it's not gonna happen tomorrow. That it's not gonna arrive tomorrow, and I believe it's gonna arrive next week, which is a shame because oh, I want to play saxophone, the real saxophone, because the one that I bought, the like the plastic one, the J sax. Um, some people in a Discord server were like, you should get a real saxophone, and I'm like, no, I just bought this one. I want to use it until I can't use it anymore, and they were like, well, you could learn directly, like, and I was like, yeah, actually real, and then it was like, oh well, okay, oh, now I don't know if I want to do it anymore, and then I was like, well, that's kind of stupid. Don't I'm not gonna let that those two or three people be like, oh, you need to be this way to be in our cult, and I don't know. Hopefully, when I in like 10 years, I can look back at this and be like, yes, thank God that I did that. Thank you so much, Marius, for buying that saxophone, even though you might not have enough money for dinner next week or whatever. Um, yeah, when people say it's important to take risks, I start like the thing is I don't even know how to see risks, so I do them. I think maybe I don't. Sometimes I feel like I never take any risks, but I hear from other people that the stuff that I've done sometimes can look very risky, which it might be that the people who say like you need to take more risks are like um they might see successful people taking risks and they might focus on the risk, that it is a risk, instead of like they the person just did it because whatever, like maybe they saw it as a risk, maybe they saw it as like, oh, this is a smart move, and then they don't focus on, oh, is this risky, because if you focus on like, oh shit, this decision is a risky decision, then it's harder to make it, because you think like, oh shit, okay, if this doesn't work out, it's a bad thing. But if you don't acknowledge the risk, you can't really like be sad about it, because to you it's just like, okay, either this happens or it doesn't, and I don't care. I really want to try this out. And then other people might see the risk, like, yo, that was so risky that you did that. What? And then you were like, oh, okay. That's at least my theory, because I just feel like I never take any risks, but people in my around me have said like, oh, that's so or stuff you've done or has been so risky. But that also might be down to like my mindset of like, I don't care. If stuff goes right, hell yeah. If stuff doesn't go right, my backup plan isn't really a good backup plan, but it gives me um it's like, well, if it doesn't work, fuck it. If I'm dead, it's not gonna change anything if I failed or succeeded. So yeah, I just try out the stuff that I want, and then sometimes it's like, oh shit. Oh, and also when if I find out that saxophone wasn't really that fun or whatever, I do have 30 days until I have to like find out how to send it back if I bother, because I'm the kind of person who's like, I might get to use it some other time. Maybe this isn't the right time that I started, but it might. It's sometimes you invest in a thing at the wrong time. And that's not just financial investment, that is also like personal investment. Because sometimes you might not have the mindsets required to succeed in something, but if you get the equipment, it's not always helpful to just get the equipment, because if you don't have, there are other, if I were to get a saxophone like I ordered, and then I realized like, oh shit, I could have spent that money on a, let's say, a subscription to a makerspace instead, and then I figure out that, oh shit, okay, this is more fun. And then if I had if I don't if I had gotten if I get the saxophone, and then that's like the decision that I make, and then I don't go to the makerspace because I got the saxophone instead, then it's kind of like a tipping point. But I'm also like, it doesn't really matter, because I might just end up going to a makerspace in the future when I've maybe like I learn how to learn stuff from learning how to play an instrument, because I've never actually learned to play an instrument before. I had a period of time where I was like, yes, I'm gonna learn piano, I'm a pro piano player. I was never good at piano. I could play two or like a few songs, like I'd memorized, like muscle memory, but I didn't understand any like theory or fundamental stuff, so I don't actually know how to play a piano. I know how to play songs on a piano, but I don't know how a piano uh, is used in music, if that's, I don't know, because I don't know the theory, I don't know techniques, I don't know basically anything. Or I I know that can learn a few songs by watching YouTube videos and like seeing them like going to the thing, but I can't read sheet music. I can't understand chords. I don't understand chords. I don't know the chords. I know like C major and like the stuff like that. I think I know, or I thought I knew, like, oh yeah, I can play chords. Yeah, I can use three fingers on the piano. Yeah, but I don't really understand how. I've heard stuff like the 4-3-4, or even that I don't know, but like the 4 up and then 3 from there, or 3 up and then, okay. Anyway, I don't know how to play the piano, and every time I play like the New Home by Austin Farwell, like that, bum, 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 and then somebody who doesn't know or knows even less than me about piano, they're like, "Yo, you can play piano," and I'm like, "No, I can play this song. I can't play piano." And then they're like, "No, you know how to play piano. You can't say that you can't play piano because you show me now." And I'm like, no, I know how to play this song. I don't know how to play the piano. And like it's like, to me it's like uh being able to move the joystick in a plane is not the same as being able to fly a plane, right? You don't understand like the rules of like air traffic control. You don't understand what every button does in like the cockpit. You don't understand like the protocols. You don't understand how to take off, how to land. You don't understand how to like do anything, what to say, or like what the names of stuff are. So if somebody tells you like, "Oh, do this," like I've seen like the videos where they say like retard, 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 and like what? But that is like um, some like language that pilots have to like understand, because the if you don't understand how other pilots if you don't know how to understand other pilots efficiently, then it's hard to be a you can't be a pilot, because you need to be able to understand it to be able to fly. You wouldn't get like you wouldn't get a pilot's license if you didn't understand more than how to move the joystick. Like you could know how to take off, like you might be able to like move the stick backwards while somebody, or like move the whatever, like the thing, the thrust controller or whatever, forward, like increase the thrust, and like you might understand it from like video games, but that doesn't mean you understand how everything works. You might have some pre-consisting knowledge of like, oh yeah, I've seen a lot of movies about flying planes and they switch knobs and say stuff, but just knowing that they say stuff doesn't mean you understand what they say and what they mean and when to say what, and like what the names for stuff are. Because yeah, I don't know, saying, or yeah, being able to play a few songs on the piano is not the same as being able to play the piano or understand the piano. Maybe that's a better way of saying it, because yeah, you might be able to play a few songs that could be seen as like being able to play the piano, but I don't know, you might not understand the theory and uh, the the like, yeah, I don't know, the more you learn about something, the more you realize that you don't know, and then like the Dunning-Kruger effect. I've found out, or I've realized that it's pointless to like try to avoid the Dunning-Kruger effect, because you will always like, you might build up strategies to negate the effects, but there will always be at least some effect of the Dunning-Kruger effect, in my opinion. Like that's, you can, like, even if you've learned like a billion different things, uh, you will still, I in my theory, or my hypothesis at least, is that no, like regardless of how much you learn, you will always have a moment where you think you know more than you actually do. And it's not people are kind of stupid. Like everyone is kind of stupid, even like geniuses, because you can't be like omnipresent. Like you can't be omni. You might, you're unlikely to know everything, so there will always be blind spots or like spots of ignorance for everyone. And being the more comfortable you are accepting it, the easier it will be to learn or improve. The harder it is for you to accept that you might not know stuff as much as you do. Like the more ego you put into it, like the more you're like, no, I know this stuff because I need to know it because I'm the best or whatever. The more ego you put behind it, the harder it is, or the more you the more you're affected by the Dunning-Kruger effect thingy. Because I don't know, the less ego, the weaker ego. Like you shouldn't have like a weak ego either. It's definitely like a balancing thing. Because having a very weak ego would mean that you don't really, or in my opinion, or what I see in my head when I say a weak ego, it means that you're like easy to persuade or like easy to like lose yourself. Because the ego, that's like the self, right? If you have a weak sense of yourself, what yourself is, what you is, then you're easily like you might see other people and go like, oh yeah, they're like me, and then you become them because you agree with them, and then you become like, if you watch a lot of one content creator and then you're like, oh yeah, I want to become like that person, and then I would say that is having like a weak ego, because you wouldn't you don't see yourself in them. You see them and like, oh, I want to be like them, instead of like, oh, I'm like them in these things, and then I'm not like them in these other things, but this other person I like in those parts that I'm not similar to that first person. And then it's like these 10 people kind of remind me of me, instead of like this one person is me and I need to become them. And I feel like that is kind of like the first steps to becoming like more of you, finding like finding people that you resonate with, and like, oh yeah, I want to become this person because they have something that I wish I have. And then if you try to do everything that they did, like following in their steps like completely, like forgetting about what you think or feel, that is like having a weak ego. And that is what I would say. I don't even know what ego is. I'm just spitting shit. And then too strong of an ego would be like seeing everyone as like inferior, and like you always have the right answer, and like everyone should listen to you because you already know everything. Because if you always think that you are correct, it's a higher chance of being wrong, because you will never like it's harder for you to realize that you're wrong, and then you can't learn as quickly because you won't accept, or it will take you a long time or a lot of energy to accept that you don't know everything, or that you don't know as much as you do. And until you realize that, like, oh shit, I don't actually know this, until you know that, or until you realize that, you can't actually learn it. Because if you think that you know something, if you think you know everything about something, you don't see there being anything you'd need to learn because you already know everything. And therefore, the more you think you know, the less you learn. And so it is kind of a nice thing when you, uh, like, if you disconnect your ego from, especially like teaching people. I believe that ego should be disconnected as much as possible when you try to teach someone, because you need to understand their point of view. Like, it's pointless to try to get them to understand your point of view because they're already busy trying to learn something that they don't understand. And if you're trying to make them see it from your angle, you're probably just going to push them away. And the more you can like go to their level and like, okay, I see that you're struggling with this. Um, I can see that you're having a hard time understanding this stuff that I'm telling you. And then like seeing that, okay, it does not help if I say that you are stupid or you should just learn this stuff or else you will never be good or whatever. If you can like stand at eye height with them, like, it's like a child, like when you, if you only play standing up, them, they will not really connect as much with you as if you were sitting down like at their eye level, because then they will be like, whoa, yo, it's more fun, because to them you're more there with them instead of like someone who's just looking at them, like standing and observing them from afar. So even though you might know like this and that is wrong and their mindset is like flawed and stuff, you gotta like accept that that is their mindset. And even though you try to like change them, the only change they will do or actually do is change that they feel like they want to make. Because you can tell them like, oh yeah, this is ugly or whatever, stupid, you can't even model correctly, but they will take that as a personal attack and they will be like, no, I don't want to listen to you, fuck you, you probably don't even know that much. And usually people who do end up going attack mode on people who know less, they don't actually know that much more, or they might actually be at the same level, or they might not be able to like distance their ego from teaching others. Because I've noticed a lot of people are like, or a few people, they have a tendency to be mean and like targeting less uh, experienced people, and say like thinking that their lack of experience is making is it means that they are stupid, like, see, because they don't know everything, that means they are unable to learn it, instead of like they don't know it yet. And that is kind of uh, ignorant, because having a lack of knowledge does not mean you're unable to gain the knowledge. It just means you don't have the knowledge yet. Like, if you, before you read a book, you're not stupid, you just don't know what's in the book, right? And saying that, oh, you don't, you're stupid because you can't even understand what's in the book, and like, bro, I haven't even opened the book, how the fuck am I supposed to know what's in the book? Like, no, you're just too stupid, you should just give up. Or just like, bro, I'm trying to get to the first page. Like, what do you mean? Or even like when people try to start Blender, and they go like, oh yeah, I wanna learn how to sculpt, I wanna learn how to model a uh, Raptor engine and make a space station, one-to-one space station replica or whatever. It's kind of like opening a book, a really, really thick book, at a completely random page, and from that page, judge the entire story and like understand like the characters and like all of the stuff. Like you don't understand anything, and everything will be like, what, who even is this character, who even is this person they are talking about, what is this virus they're talking about, the unga bunga, what, I don't even understand, this is so complex, I'm just gonna give up. Because to them it's like, what, this is too complex, and the book might seem like really, really thick, and it really is very thick. It's even thicker than they think. Like the more they read, the more they realize how thin each piece of paper is. It's like the Bible, but like scaled to the, I don't know. It's like 1 micron thick, maybe like 1 atom thick, and the book is just like billion pages. The Blender manual is probably not that thick if you were to print. Maybe it is. I don't know. There is a manual for like everything in Blender. You can like right click on whatever and press F1, and it will 99% of the time it will give you like it will open up a browser on the no, it will open up the page in the manual in your browser and like talk about whatever you right clicked and like open online manual. But I don't know if that how big that would be if you printed it out as paper. But anyway, a lot of people, they start because you don't Blender is kind of a thing where you kind of just start in the middle of a book, like you don't know, because you hear people talking about like, or seeing people make really cool stuff is like hearing them read very interesting points or like parts of the book, and it might be like short clips that make sense because the person who read the entire book or a lot of the book, they know like what that's supposed to mean, and they can be like, oh yeah, this is so funny, here's the thing, and then they quote the thing, and that is kind of like them making a character, like sculpting a character. Like they know how to do it because they've read the previous parts of the book. And the people who don't know anything about the Blender, who hasn't opened the book before, or like maybe they have and they've been turned away because they didn't understand it, and then they try again sometime later, and then they open the book on a completely different random page, or completely random page again, because they don't know where to begin. They don't know where the first pages are, and there is no first page kind of type it. I guess you could say the donut tutorial is kind of like the closest you get to a first page, like an introduction to the book. But it's also like some people, yeah, and the funny thing is there is no like in the book of Blender there are no page numbers, so there's always just like, if you give someone a much earlier page, or like show them like an earlier part of the book where things are put into context, they're not gonna they're often not going to be able to understand how much that explanation and the understanding that they will get from reading that or going through that, whatever, how much more everything will make sense, because there is not like a this is page one, this is the fundamentals of this. There is like fundamentals of modeling and fundamentals of lighting and stuff. You don't even need to learn lighting and like photography stuff in Blender. It's even more intuitive, just getting a camera and just going outside. Like, that's the funny thing about Blender. You don't need to learn everything in Blender. You can learn texture painting in you can learn how to like paint stuff in a 2D software and use those skills in Blender to texture paint stuff. You can use stop motion to learn animation, that you can then use those principles that you learn from animation. Even 2D animation, you can learn that outside of Blender and then use it in Blender. Like, you don't need to learn to use Blender before you learn how to do the things that you can do in Blender. Like, you don't even need to, like, modeling is kind of like, in my mind, modeling is kind of like, or organic modeling is very much like, kind of like the topology and stuff. I think of it as like rivers, kind of, where you can have like rivers and bridges. It's kind of how well, maybe, because like the loops and stuff, you can think of like as like a river. You want the river to kind of like flow in a specific way, and like, for example, the body has some flows of like geometry flows or edge flows, that like makes it so you need way less geometry for way more definition of the body, basically. Because a lot of people might think like, oh shit, I need like a ton of geometry because I'm gonna make a smooth model, and then they don't even know how to use subdivision surface modifier, or when they use it, they've always like seen the artifacts, and since they don't know why the artifacts occur, they might think that the subdivision surface modifier is just bugged and unusable, when in reality it's them not understanding how it works. Because if you try to what's a good analogy for it? Yeah, the artifacts. Okay, let's say you're fishing, like a fisherman, and your net is like way too if your net is not a net but it has like holes in it, it will lack there will be places where fish can escape from the net, and if you don't understand that the net is broken, you don't know that you need to fix it, and you might think that, oh, okay, I'm just this nets are just this way, this is just how nets work, because you might not look at the entire you might see the net as like very complex, like a very large number of like squares, and you might just see like, okay, they're just squares. Um, but then you don't understand like, oh shit, there's a hole in it, because basically what the artifacts are is like um, a place where the geometry is wrong. Like either you have an n-gon, which means you have a polygon with more than 4 edges, or you have a triangle, which, if you think about it, all mesh or like all 3D objects are actually the triangles. Even quad, like even when you're modeling with quads, like polygons with only 4 edges, um, they they are still made of triangles, because if you try to bend a quad, you will see that it bends in the middle. It has like an invisible edge, making it a triangle, but it's displayed as a quad. And not understanding that what the difference between a quad, a triangle, and an n-gon is kind of like yeah, it is like a fundamental thing that it's very easy to not understand, because when you look at geometry, it's just like a lot of lines, a lot of dots, and like it's probably not that meaningful. Like, what do these dots mean? They're just there so I can make the shape, right? But no, it's it has like it has rules, and it's kind of like playing the piano. You can play individual notes, and you can play like, you can try to make a song without knowing how to compose music, or you can write a song on a piano without understanding how chords work, but it doesn't mean that it won't have problems, and you might not be able to understand why it sounds weird, why it sounds bad, right? When you make a model with subdivision surface, you might see that it's weird and like, why is it so weird? But you don't understand why it's weird, so it just looks like the problem is with the thing, not your method. Because if you play the piano and it just sounds awful, and you think like, oh, I just hate piano because it just sounds bad when I press the different keys and stuff, like that. If you don't understand that, oh yeah, I just don't know the rules within how the sounds go together. And yeah, I don't know, I try teaching people that they need to learn the more of the fundamentals, instead of just like showing them a tutorial of how to make that specific thing, because if they just know how to make individual things, like, oh yeah, I want to make a shark, okay, here's a tutorial for making a shark, then if they learn the fundamentals of modeling, they wouldn't need a tutorial for how to make a shark. They would just see, okay, I need to make the gills. How do I make the gills? Okay, I need to make the edge flow a certain way, and I need to make the fins have a loop like that. And I know I'm not gonna like animate anything, so just have the visuals in your head, I guess. If you're aphantagic, sucks to be you, I guess. um, but yeah, it's understanding the fundamentals. Like, the more I learn new things, the more I realize that, oh yeah, it's all about how well you understand the bare bone information, like the complete, like basically like when people advertise for Brilliant, like the app, like making science more like Duolingo. Um, or yeah, basically the science equivalent of Duolingo. I haven't tried Brilliant, and I don't want to because I feel like it's kind of I my experience with Duolingo is that it's more it feels like you're learning instead of actually learning. Like you might learn a few sentences and you might get a few points and stuff because I was on the top of the leaderboard for like so many times and skipped so many nights of sleeping and were so tired at school because I was like overly competitive. Uh, and I had like a streak for like 180 days until I just like forgot it one time and I was just like, fuck it, I don't really feel like I'm learning anything, so I just stopped. And so I don't, I haven't actually tried it, and I haven't seen anyone who has tried it and like hated on it. So it might actually work because it sounds good on paper, like starting with the bare bones, understanding the core things of it will actually like help you learn how things work instead of just like looking at YouTube videos like I do, because I don't look at the YouTube videos about like science to learn it. I just look at it because I find it entertaining, and I know that I don't actually learn anything from it, and I know it's all for entertainment. But I also know that a lot of people, I also know that I used to think that I knew all of these things. Like I would go like, yo, I know this thing, and then like if you were to ask me any questions that I didn't already hear in the video, I just wouldn't be able to answer you because I wouldn't be able to know. But if you ask me anything about Blender, not anything, there are a lot of things that I don't know yet, but there are many things that I do know. And therefore, when somebody asks like what's this problem, and like why can't I do this, or why does this happen, I instantly, or basically instantly, get a picture in my head of like relevant things, and like, okay, maybe this works, because it's never like this works now always. This works for this works for this, because sometimes it doesn't work for that. And being like overly confident in like this will work, then it's like when it doesn't work, you look like an ass, or you look stupid, kind of. You look overconfident. Confident. But when you're like, I think this might work, or try this, or maybe this. If these don't work, let me know. Or like, is this also a problem? If that is also a problem, try this instead of that, and like giving alternatives, because just being able to say one, or give one alternative, or like one fix, if that one thing doesn't work and you're stuck and like you can't fix the problem, that just means you don't know enough to help them. And I think sometimes I might forget this, but I often, like, it's not too hard to remember because I've gotten better and better at just realizing like, okay, yeah, no, I don't actually know the answer of this, but I can look for the answer myself, and then I can report back to them when I figure it out. And I've gotten better at like admitting like, oh yeah, I tried to find the thing but I couldn't, but here's what I tried. And then like giving them some idea. Maybe I'm giving them less hope, because like, oh yeah, this person who knows stuff about Blender couldn't even fix it. And then it might be that what they're trying is done in a not a wrong way, because there is not like a wrong way of doing stuff. Like some people seem to think like, oh yeah, you need to do it this way or you need to do it that way or else it will be wrong, and you don't want to do it wrong because uh, then that means you're bad or whatever. But I like realizing when you when the things you've been told are like, yo, this is wrong in this circumstance, in these circumstances, and like, whoa, you can actually do that thing that was thought of as a bad play when you need to do this. Like for example, hard surface modeling. I have been like taught I've been taught by the people that I worked with that booleans are evil and you should never use them, and that n-guns are forbidden. They're like, you should never use them. But I've realized more and more that they're not forbidden, they're just easy to misuse. And when you only think of them as like, this is wrong, then you never see like, okay, when is this right? Like when can I use an n gun? When is this a solution instead of a problem? And it has limited a lot of my like a lot of it makes a lot of things a lot slower to model and less complicated, because I try to keep everything quads and I try to make everything like um I try to make things simple and like low poly but with subdivision surface modifiers and bevels and like solidifies sometimes, and then it's harder to make cool designs because it's there are methods that are more efficient, but I was told they were wrong, and subconsciously I still think they're wrong, but consciously I'm like, yo, I could use these. And I think that is actually because I just haven't pushed myself to try them out, because I'm like, oh no, but I'm gonna have to clean up the model afterwards and stuff. But I don't know, I should probably try to get back into hard surface modeling, because the better I get at every aspect in Blender, the better I get at the aspects that I want to get good at. Like if the better I get at hard surface modeling, the better my characters will be, because I will be able to make better props or better details and like make more interesting stuff, instead of just like smooth body with the same kind of topology and same kind of everything, changing only colors and like small elements. And that is kind of like making my characters more boring, in my opinion. Like if I learn how to use more hard edges instead of like making everything smooth, that might be helpful for like silhouettes and making characters and props and stuff even cooler. Because I do like the characters that I make, but there are a lot of barriers in my head that keeps me from making it better. And knowing that is not the same as being able to change it. Because even though I know that these things are problems, I don't necessarily know how to fix it. Even though I might have theories of like, oh yeah, if I just do it more, or watch, or try to understand it, or I find that the more I try to teach others about the things, the more I learn myself. Because if I try to teach someone and I'm like, oh yeah, how do I break this down into a easier to understand way? Like how do I explain modeling fundamentally? And then I'm like, okay, maybe I don't understand it as well as I did. And then I'm like, okay, what do I have problem explaining? Or what do I have problems with explaining? And then I'm like, okay, why do I have problems with that? And then um, yeah, because saying, repeating what you've heard others say does not mean you know what you're saying. It just means that you remember what somebody else told you. And remembering is not the same as understanding. You can understand, no, you can remember a fact, but you can also, but you, it doesn't mean you understand the fact. Um, like remembering that you can press Shift A to open up the menu does not mean you understand um, what you can do with the Shift A menu, I guess. Because you might know like, oh yeah, I can add a cube, but you might be overwhelmed by the other features like the curves and the camera and the lights and the meta balls and the hair curves. Now they are in the F3 menu or on the top on add. I don't know. Um, yeah, and then simulations and stuff. No, wait, no, they're in the simulation tab. Yeah, anyway, all of the things that you might not understand that yeah, because you might know that like you can add a light, but you don't necessarily understand when to add a light or how many you should add or what the numbers should be. But you might know that, yeah, I need lights in the scene. And just remembering that you need lights does not mean you need that you it does not mean you know what you should what properties you should give the light or what you should do with the light or what you can do with the light. And yeah, understanding the difference between remembering and understanding is very important when you try to learn something, especially something with so many moving parts like Blender. Like it's very easy to think that it's very complex, which definitely it is definitely complex, but it's not too complex to learn. Like uh, maybe if you have a really bad like learning a disability or like you take you need a lot of energy to learn even just the basic stuff um, of anything. Like if you need like several years to learn how to ride a bike because it takes a long time to understand like that you need to balance. Like yeah, Blender is definitely not easy uh, when you compare it to something like uh, riding a bike. Some people don't know how to ride a bike because they either haven't tried or when they tried they gave up too quickly or they thought of it as like too hard and they might not have people around them to like encourage them to be like, yo, you should try it even more. By failing you learn more. And then uh yeah, just because you don't know how to just because you've never learned how to do something when everyone else have, or when seemingly everyone else have learned it, does not mean you're incapable of learning it. It just it often means, it doesn't just, I'm not going to say just, it often means that you need to approach it in a different way than the other people that have been able to do it. Like if you have problems learning how to ride a bike, maybe you need different ways of starting to learn it, instead of just, I can do it if I just do it enough times. If you think about it, it is kind of a thing where you can, in theory, like do it a bunch of times, and then intuition will kick in after a while. Like, oh yeah, if I do this, like you will subconsciously realize after a while, like, oh yeah, if I do this thing where I like maintain my balance, or I go faster, if I go faster I will be more stable. And like, if you're not stable and you're not confident, you're not gonna dare going down a slope very fast, because you're like, oh no, I don't have control, and then you will feel like panic and stuff. And if you're afraid of falling off, you might go too slow, and then it might make you way too unstable, and you fall off easier. And so sometimes believing in yourself can be like the amount of self self-confidence you have in yourself is kind of the limiting factor. Because with a bike, if you go very slow, like barely forward, it's very hard to maintain control. And the faster you go, the easier it is to maintain balance. It might be harder to turn, but and if you do crash into something, it is way more catastrophic. But if you never make the connection between speed and stability, it might take you a lot longer time to learn how to ride a bike than somebody who were less afraid of falling off, or less afraid of like catastrophic injuries. And that is like children, they're like basically indestructible. Like if you learn when you're very young, you have less self-preservation, apparently, I guess. And so it's easier to learn because you're less likely to be like, oh, I don't want to die, because you don't comprehend the possibility of like dying. You don't understand what death is necessarily. Maybe you have experienced death and like you understand it, and like, oh, you gotta be careful. But if you never like break a few bones, or like if you never put yourself in a dangerous position, you won't like learn how, the limit of your abilities to survive. For example, if you never fall down a stair, you might be terrified of stairs. Or if you fall down one stair and you never do it again because you're too afraid of the stairs, then you might avoid stairs, and it might be harder for you to go downstairs. Somebody's using an angle grinder. No, a saw. Maybe, I don't know. Oh. Or a very powerful vibrator. Well, I think I'm gonna go and make something in Blender. So I'm gonna tune this out, and I'll see you guys in the next Yaptime. I think this was episode 7, either 6 or 7. I don't know, man. Episode 2, never forget, never forgive, never forget. No, I don't know. Never forgive. We must honor episode 2. Only God knows what I was talking about then. I don't even remember what I talked about, so I can't even talk about the thing. If somebody knows how to restore lost footage from a Samsung phone, even though I permanently deleted it, let me know. This will probably not be seen in like 10 years, so maybe you're too late. Well, too bad. It was probably not very insightful. So, yeah, goodbye.